Hello, I'm David Krigotz, and I want to welcome you to my Foundations of Executive Presence course. The purpose of this course is to provide the most direct and powerful means for developing and sustaining executive presence. Now, there's no doubt we are living in a very intense time. Every one of the leaders I work with now and have been in touch with, who I've worked with in the past, are feeling pressed to the edge. In fact, the American Psychological Association says its stress index is at the highest level it's been since the survey was first conducted. We're clearly facing crises on multiple fronts. And add to this the high expectations and daily pressures you still face as an executive manager or business owner, it's not surprising we're seeing a rise in executive burnout rates as well. In short, we're being asked to evolve as leaders to meet the day and innovate, but to do so in a new way that reduces the rising stress we are all feeling. That's the reason I created this course. I wanted to offer something that will provide the most direct and powerful means to help executives and business owners engage the focus, energy, and capacity they need to meet each day effectively. And I also wanted to support executives and business owners to have a means to mitigate the negative impact of high stress that's so part of their jobs today. While this course does not provide you with direct tips on running your business or even how to engage specifically as a leader, it does provide the means to create a foundation upon which business executives can stand on so they are most attentive, focused, and innovative as they engage their work and leadership. Whether you realize it or not, there's a deep well of centeredness, energy, and natural resiliency that resides at your core. This power has always been there waiting for you to tap into it, and this course will show you where that power is and how to engage it. And I'm 100% confident those who engage the suggestions in this course for just 30 days will continue the practice beyond because they will reap so many positive benefits. So I request you give it a chance. Now, this video is the beginning of the overview to the course, and it aims to provide fundamental understandings about executive presence that will ensure you gain maximum value from the course and the practices I provide in it. The objectives for each of the parts are, for this part, is to define what executive presence is, how it benefits you in your executive role, and development as a leader. And part 2 will focus on learning why the development of executive presence has never been more critical. And part 3 will focus on understanding the basis of the human experience and the findings from neurosciences that support this program's approach to the development of executive presence. And finally, you'll realize where your primary power resides and learn key practices that will assist you in fully utilizing it. Now, I wanted to start this overview with a story about the impact of what's being shared here from one of my clients. I had the privilege of being brought in to work with Kathy, who had recently made partner in one of the big 4 firms. It was clear right away that Kathy had a stunning intellect and a strong ability to generate new business. She was also well thought of by her team and the partner who managed her. That said, I noticed right away that Kathy was consistently late for our appointments and complained a lot about being overwhelmed. This was one of the areas of focus she wanted to work on during our coaching engagement. She also admitted that she was a bit of a perfectionist, and during our initial conversations, we spoke about this tendency. Kathy actually said, "My days are packed from 6 a.m. till early evening, and after that, I'm always keeping my eye on my emails. My constant focus is on what can go wrong, and I'm always looking at ways to avoid things falling through the cracks. I worry all the time that I'm missing something." So I asked her, "Tell me, what is the benefit of being this way? What's the utility of worrying like this?" She said, "Well, I feel if I worry, I won't miss anything because my greatest fear is that I'll miss a critical issue." I then asked, "Is there a downside to this way of operating?" And she said emphatically, "Yes. I'm always feeling stressed. It takes me a long time to get to sleep, and God forbid I wake up in the middle of the night because getting back to sleep is so challenging. The perfectionism definitely causes me stress." Now, Kathy had also gotten feedback that sometimes it felt like she was checked out when having conversations with her team. She was also concerned about this feedback because she really did care about those who worked for her. Yet she said that many times when she was talking to somebody, she couldn't help but think about an important meeting that was coming up in an hour or two, or a challenge she was facing with a client. And this kept her from maintaining a focus and presence in some of our conversations. So I then said, well, would you like an alternative that will always ready you to deal with anything that could arise, and that would also help you be more present for every conversation and help you get more sleep? She said, yes, of course, but what would you suggest? We spoke about many of the concepts I'm going to be sharing in this introduction, and I introduced her to some of the practices that I offer in this program. As with many I speak to about this, she was a bit hesitant to spend time doing this, but committed to doing the practices for 30 days. She said, I don't quite believe something so simple can fix this concern, this constant worry, but I'll give it a try. Well, about 3 weeks into adding these practices, Kathy reported feeling more relaxed, less anxious. Yes, she still got worried and overcompensated with extra effort, but she found value in doing the practices, and this motivated her to keep going. As she continued doing the practices, she became more present in conversations with others, worried less, and she began to trust that things would not fall through the cracks. This increased her confidence, and others saw the difference. Where before she was not always seen as centered and present, people began to experience her as far more available when they were in conversation with her. She also began to look for other ways to let go of things. She began to use her EA, or executive assistant, more strategically and delegated to her team more. These actions helped further increase her confidence that she did not have to be the one to follow through on everything. As she did this, she also realized it was helping her directs develop their abilities to deal with complex, ambiguous challenges. Now today, Kathy continues to be seen as one of the rising stars in the firm. She now swears by these practices and spends up to an hour a day engaging them. She is sleeping better and is less reactive when challenges arise. And she continues to generate great outcomes. So that gives you a little hint at what is possible with what I'm going to be sharing in this program. Now, the roots of my approach to growing executive presence and leadership started with a 15-year successful sales career, where I gained a great foundation of business acumen. During my sales career, I took a 6-month sabbatical to India. And for the past 40 years, I've been studying and practicing meditation and mindfulness. In addition, I decided towards the end of my sales career to go back and get my Master's of Science in Organizational Development. I then did postgraduate training in executive coaching and leadership. And in the last 25 years, I've served as an executive coach to hundreds of leaders. Now, during that time of developing and working with high-functioning leaders and organizations, I was called to create a system that would integrate all that I had learned from my mentors and training. And this is the system right here, the Authentic Courageous Leadership System. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole system right now, but what I want to point to is that the center of my system is expanding executive presence. And as you see, that competency bleeds out and impacts all the other competencies in the model. Now, what do authentic, courageous leaders do? They generate environments that bring out the best in others, leading to high performance and profound outcomes and service to a compelling mission. The primary focus of leadership is generating environments. And here are the 4 primary ways leaders do that. Number 1, they create clarity, focus, and alignment on the direction and expectations that they have. They consciously shape the organization's culture. They build high-value relationships and are consummate influencers. And finally, they expand their own executive presence because when they walk in the room, they know it generates a particular context. And they want to make sure that's most positive, uplifting, and inspiring. So what is executive presence? Here's my definition. It's the ability to bring your attention fully into each moment so that you can honestly assess what's unfolding around you and bring the best out in others and yourself in support of creating value. The result that comes from applying that is that it naturally empowers your authentic expression of leadership, strengthens your ability to forward your vision, and fosters alignment with what you most value. So let's talk about the benefits of developing executive presence, and there are many. One of the ones that I want to emphasize here is that executive presence fosters a conscious engagement with the law of focus and attention, which states you experience and create what you most focus or put your attention on. This is, as you'll see in part 2, is one of your 3 greatest powers, fundamental powers as a leader, is your ability to focus and take charge of your attention. And when you expand executive presence, that's one of the main benefits that the clients that I work with notice. Now, there are a number of additional benefits of growing executive presence that includes it deepens self-confidence, generates better decisions, strengthens your ability to influence others, expands your ability to inspire others, and finally, which is really critical today, it reduces stress and burnout. So that's it for part 1. In the next part 2 of the overview, we're going to talk about why executive presence is now, in these times, the most critical leadership skill, and unpack that a little bit. I want to thank you for paying attention in part 1, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side in part 2.